All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ronald President, Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Mount Pleasant. Our fourth member, Mr. Dorr, will be here shortly, but I'll at least get this part of the evening started. Let me first introduce the members that are present. To my right is Mr. Nicholas DeChico. To my immediate left is Kathy Niclario, Secretary of Planning and Zoning. And to her far left is Mr. George Lapatos. The way we run the meeting is that when your application is called, I will read it for the record. And once that's done, you have an opportunity to explain to the board why you have the variance and the need for the variance. I will ask you some questions, and after that, I will bring that to the attention so that other board members can ask you questions regarding your application. Once that's complete, I will then ask if there's anyone here for an application or against an application. Once that's completed, and it's basically a simple, I'll say not conflicting type of application, we will either approve or deny the application immediately. Because of a scheduling error, I believe we have Carol Pachalski, 23 Livingston. Let's do it. Can't hear me? I can't read lips either. Are these mics working? Is this thing, is that working better? Story of my life the last couple of days. I had nothing but technical difficulties. Can you hear me now? Okay. This is regarding Carol Puchalski, the owner of the premises located at 23 Livingston Street in Valhalla, New York, which appeal is from a decision of the building inspector for the town of Mount Pleasant, and it is designated on the tax map as 89/117.15-2-55. The application is for a proposed addition to an attached one-car garage, expansion of an existing house on a legal substandard parcel, 7,500 square feet, in the following, and you're looking for 3 variances. Front yard setback, 30 feet required, existing 28.8, proposing 28.8, variance of 1.2.
That's correct.
Okay. Second variance is side yard setback, 12 feet required, existing is 10.5, and you're asking for 3.5. You're proposing 3.5, and you're asking for an 8.5 foot variance.
Correct.
And finally, the combined yard setback, 33 feet, existing is 39.4. You're proposing 32.4 or 0.6 feet.
Correct.
Okay, now let's raise your hand. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, name your name and the name of your company.
John Anastasiou, architect.
Okay, and you're located?
320 Kelly Street, Hawthorne, New York.
Okay. Let's see what you're looking for. You can take the mic with you over there to the stand. Take the whole thing.
That's easier.
Another technical malfunction.
Yes.
Ah, there you go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The client is looking to build an attached one-car garage and also add a second floor to the existing house. Based on how the current property is situated, The existing driveway is on the right-hand side. They have a mudroom on that side of the house, so it makes sense if a garage was to be placed there, that it would be where they're suggesting it. We're also adding a second floor on the existing footprint of the existing house. There's an existing covered porch which is not being affected. Currently, right now, there's an outdoor side entrance, and that's what the setback is at 10'5" from the side property line. That will be demolished, and with the garage being added, the proposed setback from that side is going to be 3.5 feet. The existing front setback is 28.8 feet to the existing front house. We're continuing that non-conforming condition by adding a second floor on top, therefore requiring the 1.2 foot variance, also because of adding the garage on the side there. These are the proposed layouts. Try to keep the garage as narrow as possible. The existing mudroom, the existing wall of the house is right there, and we're basically making the garage about 10.5 or 11 foot wide, including the thickness of the exterior wall. So the entrance to the garage would be right here, and a car would tightly fit in there. So we're trying to keep it as tight as possible to maintain at least some kind of side yard on that side. On the second floor, we're just matching the footprint of the existing house, creating a 2-foot overhang towards the back. And these are the proposed elevations. This is the front of the house with the existing front porch, adding a second floor, and adding one-story attached garage to the side. This would be the view from the right-hand side. This would be the view from the rear, and then this would be the view from the left side of the house.
Question, go back to the existing house. You have, when we were there, there's a deck and then there's a bump out.
Yeah, you're talking about on the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a set of stairs and then there's a bump out to the left of that. And what
That's
is that level?
that's on the interior.
What is in that area right now?
It's like a little mudroom. You walk in, it's a side entrance that then leads into their kitchen, and on the right there's a little alcove here, and that's where they have a stacked washer and dryer.
One of the things that goes through my mind when we were out there, we just did it using our feet to measure. It's pretty close to the property line.
It is.
Yeah. And if that mudroom, or whatever that room is there, was removed, okay, that garage could be made a little narrower, could it not?
It can. We would have to find another location for the mudroom.
I think my concern is that they're having the garage too close to the property line. And we were there, there's no, the driveways almost touch each other.
Yeah,
In a
the
way.
adjoining neighbor has something that almost mirrors,
Exactly.
right?
So if you put the garage there, it does impact the neighbor to some degree. Well, let me finish. But if you can now remove part of that mudroom area, and we can reduce the width of the garage slightly, that could make a difference. I don't know.
I'd have to take that back to the client and see if that's something that they would be interested in. When we were in the design phase, they had mentioned to me that they really didn't want to demolish that, but I
You're
could
gonna
just...
demolish the house anyway, because you're going up to the second
That's
floor.
true. They are demolishing to do the addition that they are doing. They just happened to mention to me that they wanted to keep that room there. There's also a stair there too. It's a little bit of an odd, it's a little quirky condition because you have to go a few steps up and a few steps down to get to their lower level, and then you have to take like another couple of steps. So it's a little bit of something's happening there with the levels of the house also.
I'm going to ask you one last stupid question, because if the floor was elevated slightly on the garage,
If
Would you put in
the
a driveway?
garage floor was elevated,
exactly, then the need for some steps, now I don't know what the distance is, but if you could, is it possible to eliminate some of the steps?
the grade change there, I'm doing a little bit from memory. I think it was about like maybe 5 or 6 steps. So
Either way,
it's not a function of, in my opinion, elevating the garage slightly because you still have to meet grade of the street. It wouldn't affect the outcome because we still need some kind of set of steps to get up to the level of the house from inside the garage,
okay.
which is another reason why we're keeping that, because that's where the new steps would go. So this is the part that's being kept. I don't know if you could see it from there, but
Yeah,
there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to get from the garage level to essentially, let's call it the level of the house. There's still a couple internal steps here, just the way the house was originally designed. This is their washer and dryer niche, and then there's steps that lead down to the lower level from here. So there would have to be a way to connect the garage to the existing house. So taking this down, I don't see offhand right now how I'd be able to do
the
that,
left and right.
because
the
something would have to go
staircase
back.
going from the left to the right. in that
sorry?
drawing. Where does that go? In the one that goes lateral. You just had your finger near it. No, the lateral one.
Over here?
Yep.
This stair is going down, and then this is the proposed step going up, stair going
So
up.
that's the staircase going to the second floor.
That's the new stair going up. There's a little bit of a stair here that's existing that's going underneath. We're just putting the new stair to kind of mirror on top of the existing stair that's going down to the lower level.
Mr. DeChico, you got any questions?
I just wanted to point out for the record, you mentioned the neighbor's house. If you're looking at at the applicant's house, then the neighbor to the right, they have a garage that I believe says something along the lines of mirrors the application. But if I remember correctly, the neighbor's garage to the right is situated at the end of the driveway. Like
It's a little further back.
Further back at least.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't have their survey, but it is further
It's
back,
further
but
back.
conceptually it's similar because
And
they have it on that side.
did this house once have a garage? Are you familiar with that? That was.
I don't believe it ever had a garage. I didn't see any evidence of it, and they had like an older survey, so I don't think they had a garage there. It just seems to me like they just put a I don't know, not this, the current owner became the owner like about a month ago. So the prior owner, I think he was there probably original, and he might have just put it in the driveway at some point.
So with the neighbor's house, I mean, that, I don't have the specifics or the records for that house, but I mean, in all likelihood, based upon knowing the neighborhood and seeing it, that garage has been there for quite some time. It's all in all likelihood a pre-existing situation with the garage that you referenced, you spoke about. It's very concerning to me how close you want to go to the side lot line here and the impact that would have on the neighbor, let alone, you know, the precedent it might set for the community. So I would really hope that you have some flexibility here with your client about what to do, because it is very, very close to the lot line. So it is very close.
Mr. Dorr?
I think you're correct, that garage was further back, but even though it was attached to the house, I don't think I remember seeing an entrance from the garage into that neighbor's house.
Don't read.
I don't remember seeing that, but I don't think it goes into the house, but I understand you've got this dilemma of multi-levels getting into the house. Obviously, it'd be nice if that wasn't there and the garage can slide over and you don't have to worry about that step in. To the chairman's point, I think it's too high to raise the elevation of the garage to make access.
I agree with that.
But
Yeah.
being that things are self-created here and having walked the property, walked around the house, understanding that it would take a change in cost structure, what about going to the opposite side of the house? Change the driveway. There was plenty of room on that side. In an open yard, yes, I know you're sacrificing some yard and other things, but to achieve the same purpose. So it's just a suggestion, knowing that, I think you suggested, you know, understand that we're probably looking at something a little different than what we see in front of us.
I'd have to take that back to them. That option was just never expressed to me. They expressed that they wanted it on that side because the driveway was already there.
Which I understand, it's
Yeah.
there, and it's a different curb cut, it's all that type of stuff that goes into it.
Right.
And I'm sure that if you put in a second story, that changes the whole floor plan of the house per se, anyway.
Right. I mean, part of the logic, I mean, aside from the setback issue on the side,
Because it flows with what's
it's
currently existing.
it's how the interior layout works, yeah.
I know if I was living next door and all of a sudden I had a house that, you know, if I've been there for a month or 5 years,
Mhm.
that all of a sudden is bam, right up against my house,
Mhm.
whether it's a foot or 3 feet, to me that it's still the same.
Right.
I mean, for argument's sake, you could be putting this house right on the property line, it'd be the same as what you're suggesting setback in my mind.
Mhm.
You know, from even just walking around and things from that nature.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Lapatos?
Mr. Anastasio, let me just get some particulars from you regarding the addition. How high is the new addition going to be at its highest point?
I took a dimension from approximate grade on the right-hand side of the house, and I took it to the peak of the new addition. I know,
Not the new addition for the main structure. I'm talking about just the garage height.
oh, I would say plus or minus about 15 feet
15 feet high.
to the peak.
I understand. But it's an A-frame design, right?
Yes.
So, with regard to the width, when we looked at the lot during our site visit, again, we did note that there's a staircase, abutment, a bump out,
Right.
that this garage is gonna encompass, right? The proposed garage is gonna,
Yeah, the idea was to remove the existing outdoor deck
Mhm.
and the steps that are there, keep the existing part of the house that bumps out, and then build new steps in front of that existing bump out. That was the idea.
I understand. So, when you originally designed the width of the garage,
Mm-hmm.
you were looking to allow for one car to park in this garage
Right.
in terms of width. And even on the drawing that I'm looking at, it looks as though there's perhaps a generous placement of the garage, not in the middle of the garage entry, not in the middle of the addition, but further toward the adjacent property owner. Is there a reason why that garage door is not further over toward the main structure, and why, in effect, you're aggravating the side yard setback?
I have the garage,
It's to compensate for that laundry room,
Yeah,
mudroom
yeah,
feature?
the opening of the garage is just a few inches past the existing exterior wall. And on this side, I might have like about 1.5 feet.
So it's again the idea of sparing that mudroom, laundry room feature.
Correct.
How, I don't know if you said it before, but how wide, excuse me, how wide is that laundry room, mudroom feature?
This here,
Yeah.
4.5 feet,
1.5 feet.
maybe 5 at the
So
most.
if that was eliminated, you might be saving 5 feet off the lot line, in just broad strokes.
Dimensionally, yes. Yeah.
See, one of the things that I'm concerned about is I recognize that the existing structure is already non-conforming,
Correct.
which is fine. Many structures in the town are. And the proposal that you're making doesn't increase the front yard setback, and that's not really our concern, it's really the side. And the combined side yard is not a significant concern because it's really a de minimis application for a 0.6 foot variance. That being said, the required side yard setback of 12 feet, the property already is improved by the main structure that has a 10.5 foot setback, so it's already non-conforming.
Right.
And then pushing so close to the side that you're in effect, as I think Mr. Dorr alluded to, almost putting the new structure on the lot line. 3.5 feet from the lot line it's almost on the lot line. And at the height that you're proposing, with the potential to diminish that side yard encroachment by, as you said, approximately 5 feet, which would make what otherwise is an 8.5 foot variance only 3.5 feet. It does seem as though there is an alternative to the significant variance that you're otherwise seeking. I mean, it may not be the applicant's original idea in terms of how this renovation would lay out, but as it stands right now, it appears to me as though it's really unnecessary to have such a significant encroachment upon the side yard neighbor, leaving only 3.5 feet, when there is a very viable means of accommodating the applicant's desire for this garage, enabling them to have the parking that they're looking for. Certainly the addition to the main structure is not even implicated by what we're talking about. They would, in effect, have everything that they want, except for this 5 foot mudroom, laundry room feature that, with all the new square footage that's being added to the house, it's hard to understand why that couldn't possibly be relocated elsewhere in the home. And to be honest with you, at the height that you're proposing, and I understand it's not excessive for a garage, but because of the distance, the very small distance between the structure and the side yard neighbor, it's very significant to try to minimize this variance. And my thoughts right now are that I would not favorably view the side yard variance application as submitted, but if it was diminished by 5 feet, I would have a different view of it. That being said, certainly the board could be pressed to vote on your application as submitted this evening, but if it would be considered prudent by you to maybe take an opportunity to discuss with the applicant, making a change such as what we've suggested, we could adjourn the meeting, hold the application open, and give you an opportunity to re-present perhaps with a scaled down variance application. Again, really for the side yard.
Right.
Those would be my thoughts.
I'll take the adjournment because I need to go back to the client and discuss and review all that with them. They would have been here, but they had their own family emergency going on, so they weren't able to make it tonight. So I'll just take it back to them and see, as I'm understanding it, eliminating the mudroom and moving the whole thing over about 5 feet, or flipping the garage to the other side.
I mean, whatever works for your client, it decreases that side coming to the side. Because there was definitely, without putting a ruler, more space looking at the house on the left. I mean, you
There's
already-
clearly more space on the left-hand side. That's undebatable. Yeah.
I totally understand, and I know it's more excavation to put a driveway on that side,
Mhm.
but it might also give them an opportunity to have two driveways.
All I can do is take it back to them and see what they'd like to
You know, as
do.
the chairman says, we're trying to give you options to
No, I appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that comes up, this is a major renovation that's going to be happening on this house. And the character of the building is going to change dramatically. So whatever you have a mud room, maybe we can take that mud room and make a slight bump out in the back, as an example. And then move that whole garage over,
Up against the house,
up against the house.
right.
And the other alternative, like Mr. Dorr said, you have so much room on the other side. And putting a driveway, either way, you're gonna have to repair that driveway if they have trucks and everything else coming through. Put it on the other side. And this way, it doesn't infringe on this neighbor. It won't infringe the neighbor on the left or the right now. And the applicant will now have a house with a one-car garage suitable for their application. So like we do with 267B, do we want to find ways in which we don't rubber stamp and say, sorry, that's it, you know, we're not going to approve it. But we try to find ways of adjusting the application, let's put it that way. And then, so that it can conform within the town codes, and at the same time give your applicant basically what they would like, and also relieve the pressure of having a garage, if I was living next door, you
Right.
know, a 15-foot high garage, it would bother me, you know.
Yep. I appreciate the feedback. Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Only because I'm just listening to the client when I'm about to explain all this to them. They're anxious to get something going, and they really expressed to me that adding the second floor was their priority. My suggestion to them was, well, if we're asking for variances, why don't we just put them all together there, and then we could see. So I'm speaking a little bit out of turn, but I'm just thinking of what they're going to tell me. If they took the garage out of this and was just looking to do the second floor addition, which is their priority, is there a way to, I don't know, the process probably isn't correct, but is there a way to get that approved and then we'll make the garage addition a separate application in the future?
Personally speaking, okay?
Yes.
I don't see a problem with the second floor whatsoever, because you're not expanding the building at all.
Right,
You're just going vertically up, keeping the existing lines. I have no problem with that.
that's correct.
How can we split that up? I don't know if we can on this particular application at this point,
Right,
but
Mr. Chairman, I think all they need is, I think they might, because all they need right now is the front yard setback. Right. For the addition.
What
which
about
is
the side?
pre-existing.
The side is just for the.
The side is for the
Or
garage.
the combined is for the.
If we
All right.
approve, I mean, Joe, am I right?
Yes.
all
And
right.
they just need the pre-existing that's already there for the front,
Correct.
which is for the two-story part, but the garage part, I mean, so if you would like that, we could adjourn two of these, number 2 and number 3, and vote on the front yard setback, and they can start doing the,
I'll take it.
but
Yeah.
the only reason I'm gonna say right there, though, is now if you start going up, changing inside is gonna be harder to put a garage onto later on. You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
From a design standpoint of what you've already described to us?
We approve based upon the plan submitted,
Right.
Yes.
so for a month adjournment, if you could be locking yourself into and then have to come back if something changes, but that, I mean, that's your call.
Is there a way that I could get back to Kathy, like, in the morning, once I had the chance to reach out to them?
I mean, we can't vote on something outside of this meeting.
Well, my
Well-
other thing too, just from me for paperwork wise, is if you do that, then he's gonna have a resolution for the first one being approved. Then you're adjourning the other two, which really should just be reapplied for then. As a
You mean with new notice?
application.
You mean?
Yeah,
But why would the purpose, if,
because I can't do a resolution with an adjournment in it and then hold it over.
We need to have,
That's-
finality on
Exactly.
the variances.
Yeah. That's what I'm
As
looking at.
requested.
If you're
So
gonna
it-
deny the last two and then approve the first one, then that's a different story, but,
Then they'd have to reapply for the garage
yeah,
total.
because it's the resolutions, I can't do the resolutions.
Mr. Chairman, I think we also have to ask if there's anybody here for.
Yeah, we can. Is there anyone here for or against this application? Yes? Come on.
I respectfully,
We need you to,
we need you to
swear in.
If you want to use the microphone, and we're going to take
Right.
your name, and we're just going to put you under oath, all right? It's all right.
Just
It's all right.
raise your right hand, please. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole
Yes.
truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
so help me God.
Okay, your name?
My name is Beth Nielsen. I'm the owner of 27 East Livingston Street,
Right,
the property that's right adjoining
okay.
this property.
So
And
if you're looking at this property that we're talking about, your house is immediately to the right.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. I very respectfully oppose this garage addition because of the impact it'll have on my property value, the sun that I get in the front yard, snow removal, everything. I would step out the front door and see this huge wall against my driveway. It's just too close, and I respectfully oppose this. And I would like to say too, I've lived there for 31 years, and the prior owner always told me that there was a garage, an unattached garage, set back at the end of the driveway, that they took down when they were, they were waterproofing the house, and they just didn't want to maintain the
Is that garage
garage.
similar to what you have on your property?
Excuse me?
Similar- The garage that was originally on the property, is it similar to what you have on your property?
No, it was not attached. It was a freestanding garage
Okay.
at the foot of at the end of the
I
driveway.
don't recall, I knew your garage, but I wasn't sure whether it was attached to the house or it was set back.
It was set back.
Okay.
Yep, and it was, even with my house, the back of my house, back end of my house.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I think that at this point,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
is there anybody else?
no, not really. I think at this point, we have to define where that garage is going to go. And I have two problems. Haste causes errors. And I don't want to, I can say to you that we have no problem with the second floor. But we do have a problem with the garage. Now, if you're telling me that we'll get rid of, we will not approve items number 2 and 3, and you'd have to come back to us. But if you come back to us, you have to redesign the first floor to accept a new garage, if it goes on the other side.
On the other side completely.
Exactly.
Or
I understand
Or if it
where,
stays here, if he, but that's for Mr. Anastasio to work out with his client. I mean, if he wants to try and keep it where it is, but just move it over and find another spot for the motorhome, that might be the more practical way to do it. If he wants to do something bigger, you could do that too, but either way, we're gonna need new design plans. Either way.
So in effect, Mr. Anastasio, it's your call as to whether or not you'd like us to move forward only on application number 1, which would be the front yard setback, which is the only variance that you require for the reconstruction of the main existing structure. And then we would not undertake a vote on 2 and 3, which only pertain to the addition of the garage. And then if you come to a point down the line with your client where you have a decision reached as to how you want to move forward, you would have to reapply for the garage. So for the side yard setback under number 2 and the combined side yard under number 3. but it would enable you to move forward with the reconstruction of the main house after today's meeting, if it's approved, which it looks like it might be.
And I'm inclined to go in that direction. I just need to ask one follow-up question. Clearly, if I came back to the garage, it wouldn't be the way it's presented today. That's obvious to me. It appears to me my choices are either put it on the other side, which wouldn't, as I see, probably wouldn't have any problem, or eliminate the mudroom somehow, redesign, put the mudroom somewhere else, and then just move the garage over by about 5 feet.
Or any other creative thing you could come up with that would, reduce the current variance request. So we're not limiting you to those two options, but those seem like the two most practical alternatives. But we're open to anything else you could come up with, because I think at the end of the day, it's the size of the variance that is the issue. So whatever you could do to reduce that to get a garage in there, we would be open to.
I think that at this point, we're rushing into this. Personally, I feel that you're rushing into this. That you want to get this project going, you want to get the roof up, and, tra-la-la and all that other stuff. And you're going to have to come back to us for a garage, let's say on the other side of the house. You have to redesign the interior entrance into the house from the garage, do you not?
If it stays on that side, if they decide to even do the garage. Like, they might say, you know what, we'll just do the second floor and that would be it.
So how would you like to proceed? Do you want us to undertake a vote only on number one?
I think that's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
And I'll have to explain.
And
that
you're
to
gonna
the
withdraw
client,
2 and
and
3.
we'll see.
You gonna withdraw, or you want us to deny 2 and 3?
I'm sorry?
You gonna withdraw 2 and 3, or do you want us just to deny it in the process?
We would have to deny it.
No, he could
withdraw
withdraw,
it.
he could withdraw the garage-related variances number 2 and 3.
Oh, I could take the first one and adjourn the other two.
No.
That was the problem. Apparently you can't
You
adjourn.
either have to pull them away,
Pull them
or
away.
leave it up to us to decide.
So you could decide on the front yard setback, and you could decide on the other two, and then depending on your decision, I could come back in the future for the ones that presumably are going to get denied. Or the other option is,
You pull
like, that's
2 and
my
3
only
back.
option.
No, you could pull
No,
2
your
and 3
option
out.
is
Withdraw
you can adjourn-
2 and 3.
we
And
don't
just
even
press us for a
address it.
vote on number 1. This way you could, again, get the variance required for the construction of the main residence, not get a variance.
Where you get to vote on number 1.
All right, so you just, for the record, have to verbally withdraw 2 and 3.
The side yard and the combined side yard setback applications.
I'm respectfully withdrawing the request for items number 2 and 3, the side yard setback and the combined side yard setbacks.
All right.
So we'll be conducting a vote only on number 1, which is the front yard setback.
Right.
That's correct.
The only thing we have to put into that vote, just for clarity, is that the garage has been eliminated from the application. I think that's very important.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
I have a motion
We
by
have no
Mr.
other speakers on
No, I think we're pretty clear on that. We've got a motion by Mr. DeChico. Do I have a second?
this. Well, my
Make a
motion,
motion.
my motion specifically, Mr. Chairman, is that we approve application Z24-6, the remaining variance request number 1 for the front yard setback as on the agenda tonight, based upon the plans submitted with the exclusion of any garage indicated on said plans, and only for the one level addition on the current footprint of the main house as it stands today.
Second by Mr. Dorr. Mr. LaPazos?
Aye.
Aye. Chairman votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I do want to say I appreciate all the feedback. I was able to text the client, and they came back and said that that's what they wanted anyway. So I'm glad it all worked out, and we'll see what
And
happens.
you guys could come back again if you have another idea. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I have a question for the members of the board. Do we want to go to 24A, but it's a business session only, or should we continue with the existing?
Maybe we'll do that
application?
last?
Want to do that last?
Yeah,
Why don't we just go down to where we got here?
yeah.
Okay. The next application is 2411 James W. Kane, the third owner of the premises located at 2 Zeiss Drive.
Are they continuing?
Just an inquiry, is anybody here from First One Rizzo?
No.
Okay,
Raise your right hand, sir. The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you are?
My name is James Karras with JMC,
Okay. And your office located?
120 Bedford Road, Armonk, New York.
Okay. We discussed at the last meeting the sign that you wanted to put up. I'll call it adjacent to the Highway Department building. I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And that's a big sign, and it blocks my vision. That's what I'm afraid of. And even though I would prefer that we had one sign and have it on the other side of the street, on the Acme Supermarket side, Rose Hill side. So this way, you have adequate sight distance in both directions, if you have to make a left or a right. I think having two signs together, two big signs together, is like an overkill. Now, I'm only speaking for myself. The other thing, too, is you have, there's a building there on Zeiss Drive, 2 Zeiss, and that has an existing company work at that facility. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. It's not a, you have one sign up there now that's, I'll call it a painted sign. Okay. If we can take that, the original sign that you wanted on the other side, that you wanted to originally propose, and just make an addendum to add that 2 Zeiss Drive, which is not going to be as important, let's say, as this facility, that might be a better solution. I'm just scared to death to pull out of there even now when people come down. It's supposed to be, speed limit's 45. I haven't seen anybody do 45 on that road, stretch of road, let alone when you go towards the Four Corners, the speed limit is 30, and everybody's doing 40.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, we did prepare a site distance analysis, and we did submit that for the record. It does demonstrate that for a conservative 50-mile-an-hour design speed, there is adequate stopping sight and intersection sight distance looking left and right for a vehicle 14.5 feet back from the edge of the traveled way, which is where the analysis is done per the AASHTO design guidelines. So, we did put that into the record. I've exited that driveway, as I'm sure you have many, many times. You do have a sight line adequately to the left and to the right to make that movement.
But my concern is signs on signs on signs. Right now, you got the Chase Bank sign, you got that other sign, that's gonna come down, correct?
The Chase Bank sign, that is not part of this
The other
application.
sign that's there now,
The one with the 2 pushes next to it?
Yes,
yeah, that's coming down
potentially, yes.
eventually.
Potentially. What this application request does, by separating the two property owners and the signage requirements for each, it gives them the opportunity to do with what they want with that signage. And that was the clarification that they sought and requested at the last meeting by submitting the letter, which we did with the town building inspector and with their counsel. So they have the discretion to do with that sign what they would like. They could leave it as is, or they could propose a monument sign as we show on the site plan, subject to architectural review board approval.
Now, the sign that you have now is approximately, what, 7 feet wide?
The proposed sign?
The sign that you were proposing,
Correct.
7 feet,
Approximately 7 feet,
and about how high?
5 feet 7 inches high.
5 feet 7 inches high.
Yep.
It's a big sign. I have my reservations on it, I really do.
Mr. Chairman, a good frame of reference for that is the current public notice sign that's on the opposite corner there that we're talking about. The white sign you'll see as you drive by. The town has required us to put that up. It's 8 feet wide, it's 4 feet high, and it's posted approximately 2 feet above ground. So it really is a good representation of the massing of that sign.
I understand that, I understand. Mr. DeChico?
Can you just go through again, what we went through last meeting? The basis for the application is that you are allowed one sign, you have two, but you're asking for three. Could you refresh my memory on that?
There were 2 signs approved with the site plan.
Okay.
One at the, like, put this,
Please.
so there were 2 signs originally approved with the site plan. For your reference, this is the Zeiss Drive Columbus Avenue intersection. You drive up into the site, we have the existing office building, and then a new site driveway to serve the assisted living facility. The first sign approved is located here.
Yes.
The second sign we're talking about is the existing sign that could be replaced in the future in its existing location. The third sign we're speaking about this evening, the basis of the request, is on the opposite side of the Zeiss and Columbus intersection located here.
So we never approved anything, nor did you need us to approve any variances for the signs that were part of the original.
That is correct. They just received architectural review board approval.
And the underpinning of the application is that you want sole identifiers on each sign as opposed to having put the names of 2 businesses or 2 firms on one sign.
And that is correct. And actually, since the property has changed owners, it has been subdivided internally, so there are now multiple tenants instead of being only Zeiss. There are multiple tenants in that building. So further, indicates the need for an additional sign.
Although not ideal, there are other examples, including across the street, like right out here to the left, the office complex, and various ones where multiple tenants can be on a single sign. So that would not be it's not ideal or desirable for you, but it is not implausible for that to happen. So, is that fair to say?
Fair?
Fair. Thank you.
So just clarification, so the existing sign would or wouldn't have the new facility on it?
The existing sign has, if this request for the third sign is denied, that existing sign will definitely be replaced with the approved sign, which with multiple tenants
It
on
would
it.
have multiple tenants.
Would have multiple tenants
So
on
you'd
it.
still have your entity on that sign.
Yes.
So then this new sign would just have your entity on it.
The new sign would just have the benchmark entity on it.
Correct. And none of the other tenants down the road.
Correct. The existing sign, though, would not have the benchmark. There would be no mention of the benchmark tenant on that existing sign. It would not be updated or replaced to have anything mentioning benchmark on that. And at the last hearing, Mr. Cook, on behalf of Benchmark, provided testimony, demonstrating the need for that or the reasoning behind that. It's a relatively high-speed roadway. It's an assisted living facility. Some of these people still do drive. We do have no visibility from the road. When the leaves on the trees now, you can't even see the facility that's under construction. So we need to have, adequate signage to let people know where we are.
I think.
Yeah, Mr. Karas, can I jump in here, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
no, I was just going to say that people coming to your facility basically would be guests of the residents of that area, correct?
We would hope, yes.
So the first time that they come there, they see the sign, they know where it is. If they come a second time, they don't even have to look at the sign, they know where it is, basically speaking. I don't know. Mr. Lapazos?
So I just want, Mr. Karas, with respect to the comment that you made earlier about the traffic safety study that was done as part of your original site plan application, just wanted to be clear that although we did discuss that at the last meeting, that isn't the basis for the critique that we're making toward your application. The real basis for the critique was, I'll say, an insufficient showing on your part, on part of the application, to demonstrate a necessity for this sign. Even the comment that you made earlier about some of the residents perhaps being elderly, perhaps not being able to navigate the roadway effectively without having this third sign, it just appears to be entirely speculative. I mean, you're making a comment that is really the crux of our concern without any support for it other than speculation. And to be honest with you, that's really the primary concern that we have in terms of your showing, that there just doesn't seem to be a demonstrated need for this third sign. Whether or not it might not be the wisest location due to the site distance is not a primary part of our concern, but I think it leads to, again, what we found to be an insufficient showing on your part regarding the necessity for this third sign. There's a sign literally on the opposite side of the roadway, the Zeiss Drive roadway, that's going to identify your property. Putting a second sign on the opposite side of the same roadway doesn't seem to me to be necessary based upon what's been placed upon the record.
Respectfully, the gentleman, Bill Cook from Benchmark, on behalf of Benchmark, did enter into the record their need and their justification for the need for that signage. They operate 65 facilities, I believe, in the tri-state area in the region, and the need for adequate signage is a comment and a concern that they have encountered regularly at their existing facilities. So the request is based on what in their mind is a demonstrable need in their business experience, and that will help the success of this facility
But
moving
that's
forward.
just an anecdotal opinion based upon the fact that we have people who operate many facilities of this nature. It really rings hollow. I'm sorry. It just sounds as though it's an opinion without any substance underlying it. And I appreciate what you're saying, and you may be correct, but it doesn't appear to the members of the board that you are. And in fact, your colleague who did present before us at the last meeting said basically what you've said tonight, that you think that people will have a hard time finding the location if they don't have this third sign.
Another question.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you have on the other side, an up-close zoom? So I don't have the file in front of me but where exactly showing more exact placement of the sign?
I do not on this board, no.
Yeah, I had it last time.
Is that it? I think this is the one we're looking at.
It's to your right.
So they were gonna put a sign over here.
Next,
Wait,
Coral
Middle
Street,
Street.
shows a red and a blue arrows on that folder on the piece. No, not that piece, the other piece.
It's all yours.
Down the end, the red and the blue.
What's up there?
That's all it is,
The traffic study that we looked at last time was based upon this location that we see there, which is this is the copy of what's up there,
Yes,
on that exact location.
yes.
And is there any ability to shift that down or back or further away from the road?
Yeah, there's absolutely is. There's flexibility there to move it even further back if that's your desire or recommendation.
I think that's what we recommended the last time we were here, to find another area that this sign could go up, but it appears that there were no changes made.
Well, there is flexibility to move the sign further back. What we wanted to demonstrate was a worst-case scenario. You know, if it was located as close as possible to the roadway without impacting sight lines, that's where it would be located. And what we've submitted demonstrates that.
So, for my opinion is, because I remember seeing, again, we all go out of that shopping plaza numerous times. If a car were to pull up to the extreme end of the road, they would probably, based on the sun location, be past it. But that doesn't always happen. I'm concerned about, practically speaking, that this location here, where we see, does present a problem. I might differ with some of the board members. I don't know, based on what I'm hearing with the idea of the sign. I'm not as seemingly opposed to that, but based upon the plans that I'm seeing before us, I'm uncomfortable with where I'm seeing this sign right now. So you can take that for whatever it might be worth. And if we can't approve something, like, we need to approve what we see. We can't approve something, well, we'll move it in the future, you know, if there's something.
Understood.
So,
It's not a sign that you can just stick a couple of pieces of wood in. You have a foundation, you have a stone wall, and it's going to be pretty elaborate.
if you were to come back with,
The only concern I have, Mr. DeChico, is that we've mentioned it at the last meeting, and we're here at this meeting, and there's no resolve as to what I talked about at the last meeting, and that was sight distance. It's a big sign, and they already have approval for that sign, the blue sign. I have no problem with that.
right, because that sign is not interfering, because people are making a right-hand turn for that
That's
sign,
correct.
so it could be further up. In the location shown, doesn't present, to me, a safety issue, but the money in question does, and it's exact in the location shown. But if you could always seek to.
Mr. Chairman, if I could take these comments back to the applicant and see if there's any opportunities to modify the size, the massing of this third proposed sign, and to absolutely definitively, nail down where that needs to be. We believe it's fine where it is as far as sight distance is concerned, but if
It would
there's,
have to be close to the highway department building,
yes,
so that when
Well, just
someone...
setback. I wouldn't say
Setback
close to
to-
the building, I would just say setback and
Almost,
diminished in size.
almost to the front, the face of the building, in that area.
Yep.
Face building, if you have an 8-foot sign, basically from, say, a few feet off the face of that building, coming out 8 feet, yes. But the way it's set up here, this can be anywhere, this can go right up to we don't have anything that's concrete.
In the past, for instance, not the cemetery, the funeral home on Columbus, across from the school, just down from
Yes.
your applicant, when they were applying for a sign, they put basically a plywood mock-up, just so when we went on our site visit, we could get a very good understanding of exactly I don't remember the exact issues for their sign at that time, but the point is, it was a very cheap, easy to put up and take down mock-up, so
Yep.
we could see exactly what they were asking for, or at least something close to it.
Because right now, we're dealing in a theoretical location.
Okay.
I think what we have to find out is the actual location. And that's what we need to know. Otherwise, I would not be, personally, I would not be in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I would, if we're not going to hear any public comment, which I'm not sure that there is tonight anyway.
Yeah.
I would ask that we move to adjourn this application to the next month.
All right, that's fair?
I would appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Okay, so we'll adjourn the application until next month. And at that time, between now and next month, if they can put up, like Mr. DeChico said, let's put up a plywood sign. Like you have the zoning board sign, make the same size sign that you're looking for, so we get an idea of where you're exactly, what it's going to look like in height and width, and exactly where you're going to put it.
Something like
It sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Right.
Good night.
The next application is 2358 Cesar Padilla.
that. Evening.
Good evening. Raise your right hands, please. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God. I assume you're Cesar Padilla. I don't know who the lady is. Okay, and gentlemen? Okay. This is regarding the premises located at 23 Record Street in Briarcliff Manor. It's an appeal, is from the decision of the building inspector, Town of Mount Pleasant, and is designated on the tax map as 89/104-19-1-16. The application for proposed renovation of an existing residence and converting the existing third floor into a habitable space on a legal substandard parcel of 2,750 square feet in the R10 zone. And the variance that you're seeking is a number of stories.
That's correct.
Right now, 2 are required, 2.5 is existing, and you're asking for a half story for the third story.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, just, I'll start. Wayne Spector, the attorney for the applicant. I'll give you a little background. The applicant was here, first of all, the applicant is actually the husband of the owner of the property, but there's a consent form that's present. Mrs. Padilla is not here tonight, but they actually own the house directly next door. It was at 27? 27 Requa, so they are adjacent. It's the adjacent property. This property was conveyed to Mrs. Padilla in 2022. It's obviously a substandard property and a substandard lot, but the house is over 100 years old. Would you say it's 100 and?
We estimated 1890.
So the house, the existing house is approximately 1890. Obviously built to a different standard than today's homes, and the applicant was here in the past and obtained side yard variances to put a small addition on the house, which expanded the second floor. Currently, as existing, the house has 2 floors with approximately 1,200 square feet of living space, and the addition added some space to the upstairs level. The house, as it existed when purchased, had 3 bedrooms upstairs, and had 2 finished rooms on the 3rd floor that pre-existed. And Ms. Salmon, the architect, has been there, and I think the property card showed 2 rooms, but didn't designate what they were for. And those rooms there was plaster walls. They were at some point they were finished to a degree, or an original to the house. Yeah. Ms. Salmon actually has samples of the plaster that was removed from the 3rd floor. So what we're essentially doing right now is asking to allow the reconfiguration of the inside of the house to allow for the 3rd floor to be used as living space, and then to consolidate the bedrooms. The bedrooms on the 2nd floor were very small, and there were 3 of them. Originally, when the original applicant came in, they would have expanded the house with an additional bedroom, and I know there were issues and questions about parking. But as it stands right now, the addition that's being requested will retain the house as a 3-bedroom. So the bedrooms on the 2nd floor are going to be reconfigured, and the third floor would have the 3rd bedroom. So it will go from a 3-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. So there will be no increase in density, so to speak, of the property. The renovations downstairs have begun already. There's no change, there's not going to be any change to the actual footprint of the house by allowing the third floor to be used. The property will comply with all state building codes, which would include sprinklers and adequate egress as well. It will otherwise meet state code provisions. And as Mr. Padilla does live next door, obviously he has a very strong interest in maintaining this property and making sure that the property is managed properly, tenant-wise. These are going to be his neighbors. He's going to be right next door. He's not going to be an absentee landlord. He's going to live next door, and he's going to make sure that the house is properly maintained. As you see from the pictures and what was submitted, this is a neighborhood of very old houses, and it's a very tightly configured neighborhood of houses. We're not changing, that's not going to change. It's just going to be, like I said, it's going to be a modernization of the house itself on the interior to create modern standard living quarters for probably a small family at best, with 3 bedrooms. And the renovations in the exterior, everything is going to be improved. And I think that's basically, I submitted a letter. I can go over the standards and the factors, as we all know.
I know that this was our second visit.
That's correct.
And I remember there was a situation for parking. There was no parking in front of that building whatsoever.
That's correct. That's existing. It's pre-existing, and it's probably endemic to the neighborhood as well, as you can see from the other houses. I'm sure I'm sure you saw that on your visit as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, administratively, this was before us recently, correct? On a different application?
It was.
What was that application?
If I can, I could explain. So, the original application was because there was an addition made adding space to the second floor, and it was originally proposed to go up to the third floor. That would have rearranged the house into a 4-bedroom at that stage. And what Mr. Padilla has dropped, and he was asked at that time to withdraw the application for use of the third floor because of I think parking was one of the issues, because it was going to be an increased sized house and increased bedroom count. So he's coming back now. He's not increasing the bedrooms. They're not increasing the bedrooms. What they're doing right now is, instead of a 4-bedroom, they're retaining it as a 3-bedroom. It's not going to be, it's not going to be any larger in terms of that. The house, even with the space on the third floor, will only have maybe 1,500 square feet of living space. That's it. So, the parking, it's unfortunate. It exists the way it is. Mr. Padilla his house next door is, I guess by this neighborhood standards, is an oversized property, and he has space on his property as well. If he's going to have tenants on this house, he can make arrangements. Probably they could, if necessary, probably keep 1 car on your property.
That's correct.
Yeah, I remember Mr. Padilla's property. He had a fountain in there and a few other things floating around. You had your business truck in there.
That was in the past.
What?
That was in the past. Everything is
Oh,
moved.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Sure.
This is 27, 23, and this is the storage that fire department has. My previous neighbor, Mr. Myers, he lived there for 25 years. He raised 2 kids, and then he used to park here with no problem. The fire department allowed them to park, and there never was an issue with the parking, in the street. We never had no problems. I've been there almost 10 years.
Yeah, and then you got the firehouse. Firehouse.
Yeah, but you could see one of the other neighbors uses it to park as well. It appears. So
Right.
seems to be, I guess you call it a habit of the neighbor, or maybe just a status. What happens in that particular neighborhood. But once again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but
you're reducing the number of bedrooms, but you're increasing the floor space.
we're keeping the same bedroom count, but increasing the size so that people have.
So you have, and you're saying that which area you mentioned is 1,500 square feet?
The 1,500 would include the third floor.
Okay.
Currently,
Look
it
at
would
the
be
third
1,200.
floor. How many square feet is the third floor?
About 250, 300.
300 feet, so it's actually about, all right, so if it's 300 by 15 by 20, whatever the width of the building is,
Well, we have a
There
roof
there are
eaves.
eaves, so it reduces the actual square footage.
I don't know.
Is this house, are you familiar with any prior classifications from the building department regarding this house?
Yes, the building department had, their record showed it as a three-bedroom, with the three bedrooms on the second floor, and it also indicated two rooms without designating what they were on the third floor. That's what that does exist, and that appears to be the original structure based on what was found, the plaster walls on the third floor, that it, you know,
It was finished.
that it was finished to a degree, but there was just no designated use for it. But it was finished. It was a finished area.
Okay. Are you familiar with the letter from November 1996 from the building department? Or, all right, so there's, I'll show this to you. There seems to be a letter.
I'd like to see it.
That's the CO, Mr. Creepy.
That's the seal. So if you need time to review that, but that was provided to us, that seems to indicate that the building department determined that that's a 2.5-story house.
No.
So I don't know if you need to look.
No, we are here because it is a 2.5-story house, and we're seeking a variance to allow it to be a 3-story house.
Right, but this is not a, it's not as though the house was built in 1890 and was never classified. That letter is from 96, which is stating that based upon a prior survey from 19, I forget the year in the letter. But it seems to be that there's a specific designation that they're aware of what the house was or was supposed to be.
Yes, we're not arguing that at all. We acknowledge that. What we're talking about is what is the reality of what was there, in you know, whether or not it was classified as legal space. We're not saying that it was legal habitable space on the third floor. What we are saying is that there were two finished rooms up there. They did exist, and we understand that we're here tonight because we want to get legal status for it to be used, you know, as a bedroom upstairs. So we do need the variance for it. So, of course.
I'm sorry, I know sometimes you see this. That's why I wanted to give you time to review it.
Okay. No, thank you.
Mr. Dorr, do you have any questions?
In those pictures or on the plans you have there, is there showing floor print on access egress to and from that third floor, or proposed third floor?
Yeah, there was a window that you step out on the roof, and there was a egress window.
So in other words, there's going to be, because the addition that was approved,
Do you have pictures showing me that? Because I'm looking from a safety standpoint.
well, we don't,
I see a blueprint there. Does the blueprint show anything?
yeah, it does
That's
actually.
what I'm asking. I mean, obviously the picture,
So the way it's going to be is, because the work hasn't been completed yet, the addition to the second floor does not extend up to the third floor, so there's going to be a deck off of that third floor bedroom.
in the whole stairwell.
Whole stairwell.
And then what about that central piece that's not by the eaves?
Yes, there are, I think, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And to satisfy the safety issues, there are going to be sprinklers.
Now, are those going to be active or passive sprinklers?
Do you know?
I believe it's active, right?
It's active.
So live water the whole time?
Yes.
We were approved by project authority, we were approved by water department, and we were not building department approval for the sprinkler system, but it was submitted with the original application.
One of the concerns that I have is, I can't remember if we ever approved the third floor on a structure, even though it's existing. And I've been on this board for a lot of years. And I don't recall anything.
No, we did.
We did one? When was that?
I don't remember the years now at this point. But I know we did.
We did one, it was
We
for a
had the whole
commercial
res-
building though, it was for
the
that
whole-
building across the street from the
No, it
Union.
was a residential too,
No.
because there were windows and a fire escape that was put on the back. But this is, got a deck.
I remember
onto
there
a
was
roof.
something once in Pleasantville,
This
on that
was-
Mountain Road area.
This was
was
Westlake
Sipton.
area. It was a Westlake area.
Look at my,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was one big solid room, it wasn't two rooms. I mean, this is making more of a suite issue up here.
Well, are there any other three-story buildings in this specific neighborhood that you're aware of that are approved to three stories? And on this street and the adjacent adjoining neighborhoods?
do you remember?
Not ones that are being used as such, but ones that are.
No, I'm not really sure,
Yeah.
but I know that my neighbor right here has a bedroom upstairs.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that's it's illegal. So.
Yeah, it would be, a challenge to go do a complete survey and see what's legal, what isn't, and what, you look at a house, you see a third floor with a dormer, and you see it's really hard to make that
But
determination.
But we're not familiar offhand, and you don't have a record of, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, of any approvals recently or within the last so many years for a third story in this neighborhood. I don't.
We're not-
there's nothing we don't have anything on the record. Just for
We're not aware, and, it's very possible that they do exist. We believe that most likely they do. I mean, I think especially in the older houses, every application does stand on its own. This house does have some, because of its size and the limitations that are, unfortunate. A two-bedroom house, unfortunately, is very, has limited usefulness in today's world, especially one of 1,200 square feet. In order to give an adequate living space for people, this was the best approach to to use the space and the footprint because there is no place to actually expand. And as far as precedental value, I think that there could be there certainly can be indications here that this application is obviously, like every application, is based upon the specific circumstances and does not have precedental value throughout. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I understand your concerns as far as that's concerned, but I do think that in this particular case, the circumstances do merit, and he's here to seek to seek the legal way to do this, and not to be somebody out there doing it and leaving it and not getting it legalized. He wants to do this legally.
Well, I guess that's where my hang-up really comes, is like I'm having a tough time as we stand here right now, really seeing the way to draw distinctions between this case and the next guy that comes along with a similar house that has been used with the third story at the top.
I guess
It seems to me that this situation lends itself more to a common situation than a unique and distinct one.
Mr. Chico?
So I'm not sure.
Can we also have another chairman put his comments and questions in? Another member?
Sure.
It went to me and George hasn't had a chance to say something, which might clarify, because I have something else I wanted to add after.
Well, why don't you talk, and then we'll have George.
Oh,
go
I
after.
asked my one question on the sprinkler, which is enhancing, it's already a pre-existing structure. They're not adding a roof, so they're not going above the 35 foot from what they're going.
Correct.
It's already a space that's existing. Nobody's created this currently. We addressed the parking. I also inquired with the Archville Fire Department that it's not an active firehouse, it's a storage firehouse from that
Correct.
standpoint. So it doesn't address that. They're addressing the safety issue. That's why I asked the question whether it's a passive or a live. If it was a passive system, that would have changed my views on this 100%, because that means somebody has to hook water up to it. This is a live fire suppression system that if something did happen, it goes from that. They have a window out onto a roof out the back, so it doesn't require, to my knowledge, from a code standpoint on the state, fire escape. So with that, I'm going to open to Mr. LaPapo.
Well, I just wanted to make comment, I guess, with respect to all 5 of the factors on the 267B, because I find the application problematic with respect to every one of them. As I think came out during the comments, adding a 3rd floor, a legalized 3rd floor to a 2-story house, or in this case, with the history of this property, having had the benefit of getting an approval of the half-story in excess of a 2-story, the application having been heard not even a year ago, when there was an application similar to the one presented today, to have the 3rd story and having it, again, based upon the tenor of the board's comments, withdrawn at that time because, in effect, it was not being favorably viewed. And the fact that within a year later, an application for that 3rd story comes back again, and the fact of the matter is, nothing has substantially changed with respect to the problems that exist. It's entirely out of character with the community, not just that specific neighborhood, but the greater town as a whole. We don't have 3-story homes in Mount Pleasant. I mean, there may be an outlier, none of which you've presented, so it's not a question of finding, 1 or 2. We actually don't have any that have been presented before us. And my recollection in my years on the board is that we've never approved one. That said, even if we had in the past on 1 occasion or 2 occasions, it's definitely not consistent with the character of the greater town, let alone the immediate surrounding neighborhood. Second, with respect to the benefits to the applicant, I read the letter that you submitted, and I saw you made a comment that you were looking to meet modern standards. I'm not really entirely sure what that means, except right now it's a 3-bedroom house. You're looking to keep it a 3-bedroom house. Whether the rooms could be made larger and maybe they could be enjoyed in some greater way, I could appreciate that, but in effect, there is no benefit that the applicant is seeking to achieve that is going to be enhanced by legalizing that 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is space that's being used now. It's not a legalized residential area of the house, and I don't see how the applicant can't make use of it as it exists now that in some way is going to be much different if it's legalized, with the exception of the fact that it creates all sorts of issues with respect to, again, the lack of consistency with the character of the community. We have a lot of houses that have attics. We have a lot of houses all throughout this town that people maintain them for storage, they maintain them perhaps for other uses, but they're not legalized residential floors of homes. And there's good reason for that, and certainly if this application were granted, I would imagine other applicants might think that it would be beneficial to them to perhaps have a 3rd story on their home. And again, the character of the community would start to change as a result. Right now, it's entirely out of character. The substantiality of it is significant because right now, the town only allows 2-story homes. In effect, because of the benefit of having had the half-story recognized through a C of O letter, and now pushing that further to try to get a 3rd story legalized, it does make, in effect, a substantial variance over what otherwise is legal. 2 stories is legal, 3 stories would be, in effect, a 50% variance if you look at it that way. It's entirely self-created. The applicant certainly is able to use the house now as a 3-story home without this legalized 3rd story. So there's no question about whether or not it's self-created. And I just don't see how, in any way, the proposal is going to do anything other than make perhaps the property more valuable as a home that could be rented to an additional person in that 3rd story, and that would be something that I understand is a problem in other communities. I know it's not a problem in our community because we don't allow 3rd stories, but in those communities that do, rentals of third stories in houses can be problematic, and sometimes there's an overuse of the property. The density of the occupancy of the house increases, not just with respect to one additional person, but perhaps more. And for all those reasons, I don't think that this application satisfies any of the criteria under 267B, and I'm opposed to it.
Mr. Chairman, I think the other point was, I believe it was actually a legal three-family home that we approved from that standpoint, not a third story on the single
Well,
family.
the one in, was it that one in Valhalla?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't know where it was,
Near
but
the
I think that was a
near the-
legal
near the
three-family
tracks.
that,
Yeah.
from that standpoint, so.
Mr. Chairman, the whole purpose for us to purchase the house was just for investment. You know, we know that, right? But now that we have 2 bedrooms, and it's not really enough to be, rentable. I mean, we need the 3rd bedroom in order to. Now we
But
we
you have
do
3
everything.
now, though.
No, it has 2. In the second floor.
I understood there was a 3-bedroom
There were
for the house
we
now.
bring it, yes.
2 small 7-by-7 rooms.
They were designated as bedrooms at one
Right.
point, but they're clearly not usable.
3-bedroom house. I mean, whether it's legal as a 3-bedroom house.
Correct.
Okay.
And we maintaining it as a 3-bedroom house.
I understand. That's exactly what I'm saying.
We're proposing to maintain it as a 3-bedroom house. And I would, just to respond, I mean, I have to, respectfully disagree on the analysis of the factors. As far as, an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood, I mean, I don't believe that an addition of a bedroom on the 3rd floor where it's not changing the footprint or the appearance is going to create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. The actual bedroom itself is not a condition that's going to be impacting the character of the neighborhood. The house itself is remaining in its appearance as approved. It's just a question of, and like you said, you allow 2.5 stories. Many communities do. But I can tell you that it's not unusual to seek variances and to get the state to approve sprinklers and 3rd floors. It's in many houses. I've seen them. I'm a lawyer. I'm a practicing lawyer.
town.
Well, look, as far as Mount Pleasant goes, like I said, I don't see the bias against the 3rd floor use as necessarily supported in terms of purpose or benefits to a community if there's an appropriate property for it. I'm stating my opinion. It's my opinion is based on my experiences and what I've seen over the years. I probably handled several thousand real estate transactions where I've seen COs for 3rd floors in many, whether it's, I haven't checked off whether it's Mount Pleasant, Mount Kisco, or whatever, but I do know that they exist, and they exist throughout the county. And so there's no harm to the community by having an occasional 3rd bedroom in an appropriate property. It doesn't impact the community or the neighborhood in a negative way. It's not visually seen, it's just another bedroom within a house.
But that's the thing, it's not visually seen, and I agree with you. From the outside, it doesn't change the character of the community at all because it looks just like it does now.
That's correct.
It looks like a 2-story house with a finished attic that somebody's using for storage. But it's not just a question of what you can see from the outside that has an impact on the community. It's the density of the use of the space. It's the fact that, again, it's not like when judges are guided by precedent case law, there's a degree of binding authority depending on the level of the review, and we don't have that level of precedential value from prior applications. But we do have to make a distinction. If we grant an application today and we get a similar application down the road, we can't just deviate from what the previous treatment had been without having a substantial articulated basis for it. So there is a degree of precedence, not legal precedence in the term of case law, but we do have, we are impacted by decisions that we make today on future applications. And the fact of the matter is, in the past, we have not granted such applications. We have had them presented before us before. In fact, your applicant brought a very identical application not even a year ago.
I realize,
So there's
yeah.
no question about the fact that these types of applications are presented before us, and consistently we have denied them for the reasons that I've indicated. It's not just what you can see from the outside that has an impact on the character of the community. It is the fact of granting such an application and the likelihood that that will lead to additional applications being made that present the same changes in what right now exists as a community
Well,
character.
I respectfully disagree as far as your characterization of potential precedental value as being an impact on a character of a community. That's not the case. You're looking at this property and this property alone. This is not a community-wide decision, and you can certainly create within your resolution, if you were chose to approve this, sufficient indication of the factors that you found to be unique in this particular property, it being a pre-existing, well undersized house of 1,200 square feet, a very old house, which the applicant is trying to utilize in a proper manner. And I also believe that the concept of potential upstairs renters, whatever, that's not going to happen. My client lives next door. This is not going to be a rooming house. It's going to be a 3-bedroom house. And as far as density of use, you could have a 2-bedroom house, which probably under state law can house 6 or 8 people, if they're related. And so the actual bedroom count does not necessarily impact actual density of use, how many people are going to live in a house. So, all communities have issues with, I understand, with illegal occupants. It's endemic in many communities. It's not to the benefit of my client to create a situation that's going to devalue his property next door. And there are mandates, not mandates, but the state of New York has recognized a critical housing shortage, which we all know exists, and the state of New York is encouraging communities to encourage housing, just like they're encouraging accessory apartments in many communities that don't allow it as well. We're not talking about creating here a rooming house. We're talking about creating a 3-bedroom, a modest, at best modest size, hardly modest. It's really a small 3-bedroom house for a small family in the same footprint without any environmental impacts. As a matter of fact, the benefits, there are going to be other benefits because as part of the project, my client's going to be improving the drainage on the property by putting in dry wells, I believe. And making other exterior improvements to improve the appearance of the house. There's a lot of things that are going to be done that are going to improve the appearance and therefore enhance the quality of the neighborhood as part of this application.
And those all sound wonderful, but you just undermined your argument by making reference to the fact that the state of New York recognizes a housing shortage. You're telling me that this occupant intends to use it as a single-family home and is going to have continued use only as a 3-bedroom, but here you are making the suggestion that it's going to provide enhanced housing. So you undermine your own argument by saying that. And now that adds to my concern that this 3rd story is actually going to be used for what I thought it might be used for, but I feared it could be used for, and that is for a renter. And that's going to be the problem that I see. And now that
I respectfully take issue with that, and I object to the implications that are being made as a result of that argument.
Let's take this down a bit. First, I want to say this is Mount Pleasant.
Yes.
Zoning has been in place since 1958. None of us on this board, we might have been alive, but didn't create this law of the 3-story issue that we're all discussing here, okay? Density, state addressing housing issue, they want to put this house, that's not what we're here for. We're here to look for a 3rd story. If I remember right, the last application was actually raising a roof.
That's correct.
That he had in there.
That's correct, which has been withdrawn.
So now we've taken the same thing, we've changed it, we've modified it, whatever we've done with this piece of clay. The point is, we're just here to interpret and rule on the current zoning. We can't change anything from that standpoint. So
you're not being asked to. That's what the purpose of this board is you have a zoning code which has requirements and then creates under state law a zoning board of appeals in order to hear applications like this to grant relief from the code, and that's what we're asking for. So we're not asking, certainly we could go to the town board and ask them to amend their zoning code, but we're not asking for that. We're using the proper methodology here, which is to go before this board and ask for relief.
One of the things that came up with the applicant last year when he came before us, we told him at the time that we were very reluctant regarding a third story. But in order to accommodate him on his application, we agreed to allow him to put an expansion in the back on that second floor and so on. As far as the third floor, no, I'll be honest with you, I would not approve it. I go back before 1958, okay? So I know a lot of the stuff here. But we've never done it, and I can't start now.
Question.
Sure.
I apologize if you went over this before, but design alternatives that wouldn't require zoning variances, internal design, were those explored to create more space and more practical use of more practical bedrooms?
Well, that's what is going to happen, because the existing 3 bedrooms on the second floor are going, which were like 2 7-by-7 bedrooms and, and a third bedroom, were going to be reconfigured to create 2 bedrooms.
Right, but then you need the upstairs to be the bedroom. But is there anything that you could do?
To create 3 bedrooms in the existing house?
Right. I'm saying as an alternative to getting the variance. Is there anything?
We would have to push it out to.
Push it out
to
in the
yard,
back.
And we tie it down.
But pushing it out in the back doesn't really present that much of a problem, in that you can still satisfy your needs for a 3-bedroom house with a reasonable sized 3 bedrooms. And if you wanted to, because most of this is stick construction, right? So by having it as a 2-family house, number one, you don't need the sprinkler system. Number one. Number two, you can expand on the first floor and second floor. You don't need that much space. You can go back maybe 10, 12 feet, whatever you need.
We'd still have to come back here for variance at that point, because the house is non-conforming.
We would look at it more favorably in that light, rather than spending time.
Well, then it would
arguing about
also increase the coverage, the lot coverage. It's a small lot. So this was one way to do what you're suggesting without looking at creating a larger box on the property, which would take up more square footage, more footage, and create a more impervious surface and other environmental issues that we're trying to avoid.
But if you look at the street itself, and by bringing it back, you're not creating that much of an environmental impact onto that property at all. And at the same time, the board will, or I will say, not the board, I would not be inclined to approve that. So there's 2 choices that can be made. A, go for an Article 78, which is going to cost a lot of money, or modify the construction, bring it back a little bit, have the 3 bedrooms, and you can do everything else. You're still going to be putting a dry well in there. You're still going to be doing other things. And if I recall, the gentleman's property in the back, I mean, his property went back fairly far. He had the garage. He's got the main. Now I'm going.
Oh, it's a narrow but deep lot. That's
so
correct.
Let's look at it that way. I mean,
So
we're here.
We could add 10 feet to the existing.
Right. So what we're trying to do is, under 267B, are there alternatives? And the boards, and looking at this, there are alternatives.
Well, the alternatives do not address the question about whether a 3-bedroom in and of itself on this house is objectionable, which I've heard from the board.
As far as I'm concerned, the 3-bedroom house, a 3rd floor, that's not going to fly. That's my opinion.
So if the sole objection is the use of the 3rd floor and not the creation of a 3-bedroom home, then I guess my client could consider that as an option.
We could expand 10 feet in the backyard.
I think that that area, otherwise, we're gonna be here talking all night about what we can do, you know, to do this and argue. First, we argue the law, then we argue the argument. But I think at this point, to enhance the property itself and make it more viable by adding an addition in the back, the board would feel more inclined to go along those lines than to take a third floor and do that. And here you're saving money because A, you don't have to worry about a solid sprinkler system. You don't have to worry about any.
Well, we already paid for it.
You have to work that out.
That you can do that. But the fact of the matter is, if you already paid for it, you paid for it. But I think that with all the work that's going to be done on that house, I think by expanding the back would be the best option for you.
To create a bedroom in the back.
Exactly.
Or whatever you think may work best for you. So, right, I think what the chairman's saying, and what I would do, I don't know if anybody feels the same way, but to your point, sir, I think the strongest objection is a third story. We're not so much worried about a third bedroom. We would have to see the plans and have to judge whatever comes before us, but the board would be, in all likelihood, much more inclined to look favorably upon something to go out back, assuming it's reasonable and in line with the other things we need to consider, but.
Well, okay, this is
We've
what,
had
this is what I would.
applications in the past where
Right.
this came up, and I always tell the architect, this is the time to be creative.
Right.
And I think you can do an awful lot, both to enhance the building and also improve the neighborhood. When you think about it.
Well, without actually studying it, what I would, so I'm hearing what the board is saying, I'm hearing that the board is not going to approve this. And what I would ask is so that I can speak to my client about his options and he could review his options, is that the board take a vote, and if you're going to vote it down, you vote it down, and then my client will decide whether or not he reapplies with the new plan or not, and then all his options are before him at that point.
And you would prefer that we take a vote tonight rather than adjourning, so you could, it would have to.
Well, the adjournment would have to, if he's going to resubmit, it would have to be an entirely resubmitted application.
It would be, I just want to make sure to give you the option, because there's a finality to if we.
Well, the finality is that you're disapproving a third floor tonight. You're not disapproving anything else.
Right.
If you're,
Just wanna make sure
yeah.
that- Want to give you the option of whichever one.
I mean, the option is, like was mentioned, is my client wishes, if he chooses to challenge it, has the right to do so, but can't do it without a vote.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting that he's going to, but I just have to ask that so that we have a record.
All right.
Before we do that, just make sure there's nobody there with none.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Is anyone here for or against this application? I didn't think so. What would the board like to do at this
I
time?
think we should.
Go to the business session with it?
I personally think the board should vote
George, do
on this,
Call vote?
on this application.
you want to, do you think, George, is there, want to do a business session?
I suggested it, but I'm prepared to vote now if the chairman would like to.
So am I.
Yeah, all right. Do I have a motion to deny or approve the application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the application as submitted.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorr. Mr. DeChico,
In favor of the motion.
and I, the same with me, to deny the application. So it's carried 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay? The next application is 24-9 Maria and Roberto Molina. You all set?
Yes, it's very
Raise your
simple.
right hand, please.
Thank you for being patient.
All right, raise your right hand, please. Testimony
Right
about to-
hand?
Right hand.
Yes,
The testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
yes,
Okay. This is regarding the premises located at 41 Rosalind Avenue in Pleasantville.
yes.
It's appeal from a decision of the building inspector, Town of Mount Pleasant, tax map 89/106.14-1-8. The application is for the proposed legalization of an existing 6-foot fence in the front yard of Rosalind Avenue on a legal substandard parcel. You're looking for a 6-foot fence?
So, it's a corner property, and, so in the front yard, it's all 4 foot, which is code.
I'm familiar with that. Then there's that one little section with the 6 foot.
Yeah.
Okay. We were over there. You got a pretty compact little property
I
between
have 12 kids.
12 kids.
So, and I have 4 dogs, and I am always afraid of, even before me investing on the fence, my kids are always running around. So, you know, I try to put some little stuff so the cars could go, you know, slow down, but it really doesn't work. So,
And you have a lot of cars parked in front of your place.
yes, I have the 12 kids. My 3 oldest are already driving, and I don't know. I mean, you know, it's my husband, my you know, me, and I do own my own electrical company. So,
Right.
I mean, I know it's a
Su
lot.
vida es la lucha, huh?
What happened?
Su vida es la lucha.
Yes.
Okay. I have no objection for that 1 6-foot fence.
Yeah, I asked, so I removed my underground tank, and I asked, I think, the inspector who went there, and I forgot his name. I think he deals with commercial now residential, and he said, I don't think you will have any issue. And I said, okay. So, you know, I don't know, I just give it a try. I'm not, you know, with everybody with those little things. I don't think it was a big deal, but I don't know, it's up to you guys.
I have no further questions. Mr. DeChico?
Ma'am, I just want to clarify that the request is for a 6-foot fence only in the area where there's currently a 6-foot fence, which is kind of in front of the driveway, correct?
Yeah,
So you're not looking to put up a 6-foot fence around the rest of the property?
no. The rest of the property is only 4 foot.
And you plan to keep that
Yes,
the same?
yeah.
And so you understand that if this was approved for a 6-foot fence, you would only be approving that section indicated on the plans that's currently at 6 feet?
Yes,
So you would not be able to legally put up a 6-foot fence around the rest?
that's fine.
Anybody want to talk about lattice, or is there?
No, it's already up.
It's your place, it's already up, so.
Mr. Dorr?
Well, when we have gone by twice now, each time it was on a Saturday.
And all my kids probably were there.
Well, you just said your oldest are just starting to drive. There were numerous cars parked in different directions leading up to that other white fence that's there.
So I think the reason why there's a little bit more cars at this point is that, I just recently, on Christmas Day, I had a overflow of my, main. So there was water all over the place. We were actually out of the house for 1 whole month. We were living in a hotel. And now there's, you know, like, we had like a company where they removed the walls, you know, like everything was wet and all our stuff. So now you can see more cars right now than before, but it's my husband and me. And I do own a 15-passenger van, which we probably use it once every week because, you know, I have to transport all my kids. And then I have my 3 kids who drives, and I do have a minivan and my work truck, which I use it as a regular my workers use it for, you know, for working and, you know, because I do run the company, so, yeah.
So
But
the
other than that-
dumpster that was there was for the tank removal that you mentioned?
Well, yes, I
That was
removed
just
the
there
tank.
this Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
And then the storage was
That little,
box that was there?
yes, because, you know, we had to remove a lot of the stuff in the basement, you know, and, I had to put it somewhere. But that little storage will be moved once we put in, you know, once everything is done. Then everything will be put back inside the basement, and then that little storage will be gone. It's just temporary.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Briganti.
Sure.
Mr. Briganti, are there, yes, are there any known violations or pending violations on this property that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any chance of reducing the amount of cars that are in front of you?
So,
It's worse
yes.
than a used car lot.
So, yeah.
It's very
No, I understand,
bad.
yes.
It's overbearing.
I have, there's one van, which is gonna come out. I'm gonna sell, and there's a little minivan, which I'm also gonna sell it. So those 2 cars will be out. And
Yeah.
once we are done with construction, it should be back to normal.
I understand. So what exactly is the need for this 6-foot fence where you put it? What was the purpose of putting it there?
So I have the deck, and once I put the 4-foot fence around my property, I don't have that much, I don't have a backyard, I have a front yard, and when the 4-foot fence went on, it took a lot of my front yard. So I have this little piece for my dogs, and I have my trampoline. But the little on the side, I have like, you know, a barbecue, the kids could go out, you know, have like, just play around where they can't get out. Right now, if I let them go out, they hang on the doors or they try to get out because, you know, it's, you know, they climb, like they're toddlers. So the 6-foot fence allows me to have a little bit more private, you know, but, you know, that's the only thing. It was nothing.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone here for or against this application?
So we're going to hear from the other gentleman, and then you could comment. when they're
I'll come
done.
back? Okay.
Yes, you could just step to us.
Good evening. You are?
I'm Antonio Cappa. I live directly across the street at 45 Boot Street.
All right, raise your right hand, please. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you
Yes,
God.
it is.
Okay.
Now hearing why they wanted the 6-foot fence, 15 years ago, I put in an appeal to get the 6-foot fence on the side of my property. I was denied. They said I had 2 front yards. They said, you cannot do it, you have 2 front yards. I wanted the privacy. I couldn't get it. I did it prior to putting my fence in because I wasn't going to spend the extra money taking the fence out and changing it, figuring doing it the proper way. So now I have a 42-inch fence around the front and 3/4 of the way down the side because I'm allowed to do it from the backyard. I don't see why they can get away with putting up a 6-foot fence for privacy when we got to sit there and stare at their house with the cars, the dumpsters, and everything. Why do they get to have the nice little private area while we have to look at the mess? The dumpster, as she said, was from the construction. That's the 4th one that's been there. There's people coming in at 8, 9 o'clock at night dumping in it. It's a whole different story. You guys can do what you want with that. I'm not the only one in the neighborhood that sees it. But we're here for the fence. I do not appreciate that I got denied and that they're going to be able to get it and to get accepted and move on. So I don't know how we go about doing whatever you do. You're going to vote on it. That's going to be your decision. I'm just stating my opinion and what I went through.
The fence length is probably about 6 to 8 feet. That's the fence area we're talking about.
I know exactly
All
where
right,
it is.
it appears from what we've seen is that the existing fence, the 4-foot or 5-foot fence, is halfway up the front lawn, so that they can park their cars there. And when we passed by the first time, yeah, it was an eyesore. I'm not gonna argue that point with you.
That is every
There's a
day.
lot of stuff there,
That is every day.
yeah, and I don't know whether they're using that dumpster to dump from their construction, their electrical work, whatever business they have. That I don't know. That's a building department issue.
I understand that, and we called the building department, and they said, oh, they have active permits. They've had active permits for the last 15 years.
They do.
I understand that. One day, it'd be nice to get the work done, so we don't have a dumpster sitting in our front yard. I mean, have you guys been doing inspections? Because I've yet to see anybody come by do an inspection. I mean, I'm not telling you you didn't do your job. I didn't see it.
Okay.
But, I mean, she also neglected to say she has a contracting company too. So that, and I thought it was illegal to run your business out of your house in a residential area.
That's true, it is.
It's true.
So,
You cannot run a contracting business out of your house. I'm not sure if she is or not. We didn't see any time anybody complained, but we never any commercial vehicles parked there.
Well, they got a commercial vehicle parked there.
It was a van.
The reason why I asked the question is if there's any pending violations, is specifically because it would seem that there may be because of what we have seen multiple times. But there is no pending violations, so we're here, although we all sympathize with what you're saying, we're here to say,
for the fence,
is this
I understand.
fence? And if somehow this fence was to exacerbate the problems that are obvious, then I might have a problem with it. But I honestly don't think that my view is that this 6-foot fence, where it's proposed, is going to in any way, shape, or form negatively or positively affect the other situation that's going on there.
No, that's what I said. That's
Yeah,
totally
and I just-
separate. I agreed with you
I
100%.
sympathize with what you're saying, but
It's just, as I said, I was denied 15 years ago. I don't understand how the rules could change in 15 years, but that is your decision to make. I'm not going to make your decision, because I can't. I'm just stating my opinion. That's it.
Just to add to the record so that you understand, I've been with the board now for 8 years, and in my time here, I can't think of a single application that we've had for a variance of 2 feet to increase a 4-foot fence to a 6-foot fence in that time. I understand your application was 15 years ago. I don't know the particulars of why your application was denied.
My either.
But that being said, just so that you're aware, we very commonly grant applications like the one before us now for a 2-foot variance on a fence height. It's surprising to me that you had an application of similar nature that was denied, but consistent with past practice. This application is consistent with those we've granted repeatedly. Just so that you're aware.
No, listen, I understand. I came here to voice my opinion, like we're allowed to do, and that's all I'm doing.
I have more sympathy for your situation than maybe you realize, but that said, I know it's small comfort to you, but.
No, I understand
I
that.
think we all do, but
No,
all for the record.
when you pass that house, your eyes open. And it takes away from the neighborhood. Because you have a lot, I can't find the exact words to describe what we have here. But that's a town, as far as parking and cars and so on and so forth. From what I understand, you can park as many cars as you want on your front lawn of the town wall, am I correct?
As long as it's registered.
Right. That's ridiculous. But then you don't have, now your front lawn looks like I said, it looks like a used car lot. You got all these cars parked up in the front, and it takes away from the neighborhood.
Yes, and it also causes traffic, it also causes, because there's people parking on the street on top of the cars that are being there.
Exactly. And I agree, and I sympathize with you 100%. But that's out, two things. Number one, it's outside the scope of what we're discussing tonight.
That I understand.
And number two, if we had the authority to make a correction to parking facilities, believe me, we would.
I mean, I had brought up to
Because,
the police
yeah,
department about having no parking from 30 feet in from the corners.
Right. I've always felt, in all the years I've served on this board, I would never want to turn my kitchen into a bathroom. And that's what's important.
Yeah.
I live here. And we try to accommodate people as best we can. In this case here, we have no jurisdiction on this, except for the fence height, and it's minimal. It's 8 feet, it's one solid piece. That's it. Now, if it's up to the applicant, she said she's gonna get rid of a couple of cars, she can be more than, you know, there are not too many people in this neighborhood with 12 kids. And that, that's a lot of kids. And so I don't know, there's a lot of combinations over here that work for and against. But as far as the application for the fence, it's de minimis, basically.
Yeah, as I said, you guys are gonna vote the way you're gonna vote, and I have to deal with it.
Is the other gentleman planning on speaking?
I don't know if you, did you want to come up and talk?
Come on.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Raise your right hand, please, sir. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. You are?
My name is William Rod, 25 Booth, Pleasantville. I am a neighbor of Molina there, and I'm here more to put an aesthetic kind of hint to it. My family moved to Booth Street neighborhood in 1906. Okay, Stabe family, the Meyer family. Now the Rod family is still there. I'm at 25. We built 25 Booth, 33 Booth, 45 Booth, Tony's house, and 46 Booth. We built one on Francis Place, and we built one on Rosalind Avenue. That's the history. So when I look at the fence is kind of ugly looking, but okay, and everything like that. I object more going along with that dumpster. Has been there a long time. That the pod has been there. Just earlier this week, I saw a large flatbed truck with Marvin Contracting on it there, unloading a whole bunch of stuff. They had the street blocked for 15 minutes. They had the thing on Booth Street. Nobody could go up or down. I see 9 cars parked around the perimeter every morning. And I see pickup trucks and vans with this Marvin Contracting. So again, that doesn't address what you're doing here tonight, but I just wanted to get you a little overview of how the neighborhood has changed, like everything else, I guess, over the years.
Well,
That's about it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board want to make a decision on this?
I mean, I'm just gonna go for the record and say, well, we sympathize with everything that's been brought in front of us, and what we visualize, it's not what's legally in front of us. I mean, I think if we've raised a flag that further inquiry has to be made on certain issues, but it's outside the purview of this board. So I think we should move to a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that,
we should give the applicant the opportunity to respond to any of the public comment if she wants to. She doesn't have to, but I think we need to give her the opportunity. If you'd like to respond to any of the comments, you can. You don't have to, but you have an
No,
opportunity.
it's fine. The dumpster has been there for, well, the water, the sewer backup, whatever, when it happened it was Christmas Day. So, then everything, got wet. My boiler stopped working. We moved for 1 whole month to a hotel because it was cold weather. I do have babies, and the insurance, have to do their investigation, and everything that they have to do. So really, to be honest, I can't figure out the time when they're gonna pay and when they're not gonna pay, So, yeah, I have the garbage and I have to get rid of it, but I can't get rid of it until the insurance comes and checks it out. So it's been quite a while, but it's almost done. So I think this is the last dumpster that is there, but it's not full. So, that's that. And like I say, I am going to get rid of 2 cars since I do have a storage where I can storage all my, my stuff. Like I said, I have a lot of kids, and with kids, you do have a lot. The house seems pretty small. From the outside, it's not, but as I have 12 kids and I try to organize myself, I don't find, I try to make it possible, but I have the storage. I'm getting rid of those 2 cars, and like I said, 3 of my oldest kids drive. My company is located in 20 Linden Avenue in Ossining. But I do have my car parked because that's where I live. I don't know what else to say because whatever I have said is, but other than that, I don't have, the only reason why I have my fence is because of my dogs and because of my kids safe, and that's about it. That's my whole thing.
Thank you.
The board want to make a decision on this?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve, a motion that we approve application Z24-9 based upon the plan submitted and the record made tonight.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Dorr?
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. So it's approved.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thanks for listening. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We have
No,
one
we have
continuing
the-
application.
We have to make a motion to go back into a business session regarding
The Zeiss sign?
application 24A.
Oh,
Oh, the Holly Lane.
Holly Lane. Holly Lane, Holly, weed, whatever.
Mr. Chairman, just as a recap on this, if I remember correctly, 2 meetings ago, are we in business session? Are we adjourned to business session?
I make the motion, we adjourn to business session.
Yeah, we are in business session.
I second the motion to go to business session.
All right. One of the things, they're, number one, they're asking for 100% variance.
Whoa. Let's go to how we got to where we are today. There was an application made and an applicant was heard 2 meetings ago. So now it's May, that was in the March meeting.
Correct.
And at that March meeting, the applicant presented, made points, the board made comment, and because the application was so unavailing to some members, including myself, the applicant who seemed, I extended to him an opportunity to supplement his argument and his showing and his application. And we afforded him an opportunity to come back to adjourn his application, not make a vote, not take a vote on it,
Right.
not make a decision on it, but to adjourn his application for one additional month and to allow him to come back at the April meeting when he would be permitted to be heard further.
And he failed.
The April meeting came. All the members that are present here now were present at that meeting. We checked with the building department secretary, Ms. Niclario. There was no communication received from the applicant in advance of the meeting. The meeting was called to order. There was no appearance by the applicant. There was no communication, as I indicated, prior to the meeting by the applicant.
Nor
At
legal-
that time,
Nor legal counsel.
nor anybody, nobody for the applicant was here. At that time, we did address the absence of any parties on behalf of that application, and we indicated at that time, I believe Mr. DeChico made a comment to close the public comment and to refer the matter for a vote at the next meeting. In advance of that meeting, which is tonight,
Right.
letters were submitted by the applicant's attorney, in effect suggesting that they be given an opportunity to be heard now, or at the next month's meeting, or at some other point in time, but never did they address their failure to appear at the meeting that we had in April,
Right.
nor did they address the fact that the meeting, the public comment was officially and properly closed by this board, that the meeting was no longer open for council to be heard. And council submitted a letter suggesting that in fact he expected to be given an additional opportunity to be heard. And I'm going to make the comment now that his letter is untimely, that the opportunity to be heard was before the April meeting or at the April meeting, but not subsequent to the April meeting. And that any application that they make at this point to have the matter heard further after the public hearing was closed by this board and it was simply adjourned for decision, that there be no basis to further entertain any input from council, and that we move forward with a vote at this time.
I agree. And if we look at what the application is, number one, they're asking for 100% variance. And at that 100% variance, the board has never approved such an application. And if we look at 267B, is it self-created? Obviously. Will it have an effect on the community in that area, that circle? Yes, it will. It changes it'll change the character of that cul-de-sac area up there. There's a lot of things that were wrong with it.
And I think we made an extensive record when applicant was here as represented by council. I think the comment was significant. I think it addressed all the detriments, the deficits of the application, applying the factors of 267B, and I would rely on the record that we made at that time.
Do we know why they're not here tonight?
They were told for me not to come.
It's a business session only.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is anything more that could be added. We had a thorough discussion at the meeting back in March.
Correct.
So I don't know what they can answer. Plus, the fact we have the New York State law regarding access with these what's called driveways or whatever. On a previous application we had. So and then state law supersedes town law. Personally, I would vote to deny the application on just those basic grounds.
But again, we did make a very substantial record that addressed all the factors in much greater detail during our March meeting. We don't need to repeat them all now.
No.
I think we could make reference to them and allow that record to stand. The question today was simply whether or not we would, or even procedurally were permitted to undo what had been properly done at our April meeting, which was to close the public comment on the application. And
I
there's no
feel-
basis to reopen it.
I feel that there was due process as far as this application is concerned. And I believe that at this point, the board should make a decision whether to deny or approve this application.
I'm just going to make one comment because it struck me now that it's important. And I just want to add, in spite of the fact that more than a month has passed since our April meeting, we've never received anything from council which indicates justification for their failure to appear at the April meeting.
That's true.
They offered us nothing in terms of a mea culpa that would justify their failure to appear or communicate with this board prior to that April meeting.
But
It's shocking that now that they submit a letter suggesting as though to, in effect, gloss over their failure. It was council's failure that led to the situation that they confronted with
What
them.
is the date of the letter?
But to George's point,
Today,
but there was a letter submitted prior to today.
which also didn't have
Also
any
didn't-
justification for their
Right,
failure to appear.
exactly. So the letter, the first letter submitted after they failed to appear had no reference to why they failed to appear. And then the letter submitted today
Repeated that.
failure to even acknowledge that they didn't appear at the April meeting.
And again, it's not just the lack of appearance, it's the lack of communication with the board to alert us to the fact that they weren't going to appear, or that there was a reason why they weren't going to appear, or that they were requesting a further adjournment. No communication was had. That's the record.
And
Okay.
I think we've given them every opportunity to try.
Every fair opportunity for
I
sir.
think you explained it very well, George. And I think we have to make a decision.
So at this point, Mr. Chairman, if the rest of the board members are prepared to undertake a vote,
Yep.
I'll make an application at this time to deny application Z24-8 as submitted.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dewar. Mr. DeChico?
I would approve with the comments that I did read the letter from today, and I found the arguments, although detailed, ultimately unpersuasive to change my vote. So
All right,
yes,
so
I approve.
You
I approve
deny the
I
application?
approve the motion to deny.
Okay, thank you. And the chairman does same. So it's, the application is denied 4-0. Okay.
Motion to close the meeting?
Second. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Turn off the mic.
Oh, yes.